Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto stops the Uchiha massacre time travel Sasuke, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Gains and losses. Darkness. That was all Uchiha Sasuke now saw. It was blissful as compared to the torture he had witnessed before it. The murder of his people saw time after time in that hellish genjutsu. Anything was better than that. Darkness was the best he could have asked for. In the dark fog of unconsciousness, the screaming had stopped. Then there was the light, a fluorescent pulsing light that made a faint humming noise overhead. He opened his eyes and was greeted by a white ceiling with bright fluorescent lights that lit his room. His vision was blurry, and his head throbbed like a beaten drum even as his body ached from head to toe. He let out a groan. The smell of disinfectant greeted him when he inhaled. White walls, bright lights, disinfectant. He was in the hospital. Uchiha Sasuke blinked several times as the events of his ordeal came flooding back to him. It wasn't a dream then, everything that had happened. Everything was real. His world had been shattered to pieces by his brother, his beloved brother whom he had admired more than anyone else he knew. A brother he had trusted and looked up to. That very same brother had murdered his people, his clan, his auntie and uncle, his distant father, and his kind mother. All cut down, and for what? Filthy ambition. Was it all for the sake of power? Had everything Itachi ever said to him before that night been just another illusion? Just another trick of the eye in his brother's vast repertoire? Sasuke concluded it must have been. No loving brother would make their sibling an orphan. No good son would murder his parents, and no true Uchiha would massacre their own blood. No respectable person would slaughter children either, which Itachi had done, and Sasuke had witnessed hundreds of times in the hell his brother had forced him into. As the light from the fluorescent ceiling hurt his eyes, Sasuke was slowly becoming aware of what he had heard. A soft, gentle voice, the words of someone he could not see, seemingly rumbled in his mind unabated. Uchiha Sasuke, you awaken, you who have endured great tragedy have a choice to make. I am the great Kami Kano Yanoheim no Kami, or Kaya no Heim, for short the goddess of fields, harvests, and medicine, and I come bearing a gift to assist you in righting what was done to you. Sasuke froze. A Kami. A literal Kami. This was ridiculous. How could a Kami be here? Sasuke looked around but saw no one. Had Itachi succeeded in scrambling his mind? Was he dead? The voice continued to speak like a whisper in his mind. My gift will assist you in healing the wounds inside your soul. You are hurting, you are afraid. Your heart is broken, that is why you have not yet awakened and why you feel the need to close your eyes, but if you open them you can see yourself as you truly are. Open your eyes. Do you know of what I speak? Sasuke's mind raced. His eyes, what did this being wait his Sharingan? Was this Kami saying his Sharingan had awakened from what he had endured? Sasuke stood on weak footing and trudged his way to the bathroom connected to his hospital room. He didn't trust the voice in his head, but he needed answers to what was going on. Sasuke looked into the mirror and a pale face with dark eyes stared back at him. Your chakra. Think of the pain of the massacre and channel your chakra behind your eyes. Kaya no Heim ordered. Sasuke's eyes widened in shock. Was he going mad? He had to be. But despite himself, Sasuke closed his eyes and did as the voice requested. He thought of seeing his aunt and uncle felled by a single kunai as they cowered, not willing to raise a hand against their beloved nephew. Itachi did not even spare them a glance or a second ninja tool. He thought of Uchiha Inabi, with his long dark hair and stern eyes, who had questioned his brother about Shisui's now revealed murder. He watched as Itachi bound him and made him watch his wife and child be murdered before Itachi beheaded him. He saw him die before the blade even connected with his neck, the fire that had shone in his eyes long extinguished. He thought of Izumi Uchiha, a beautiful girl with a kind face who had loved his brother almost as much as he did. He saw Itachi fry her brain with a genjutsu so powerful it made her bleed from the nose and killed her. He then saw Itachi kill her mother after knocking her out. He thought of old man Tenkai, a crippled veteran of the first two shinobi world wars, whose somber face would lighten when he talked of his granddaughter and how good she was for helping him in his old age. He saw again how she was cut down in front of him, a child a year younger than himself slaughtered by his brother. She was not even in the academy yet. He saw in that moment how Tenkai lost his will to live as he stopped desperately trying to get out of bed and into his wheelchair. He saw him with a cry of anguish blow himself up with an explosive seal carved into his chest only to see Itachi escape the blast radius unharmed. Last he thought of his mother and father. His mother had been the kindest woman he had ever met. She was graceful, warm, beautiful, and intelligent, the peak of what a truly noble person should be, and she was always there to lend him an ear or help him. His father was stern, but not cruel, where his mother was open and friendly. Fugaku rarely spoke, but when he did everyone listened. He was like earth itself, mostly unmoved, but when he was moved the very world shook and listened. He thought of them in their final moments, how they refused to fight, to kill their son, how Itachi cut them down without mercy just as he did hundreds of others that night. All these tragedies flashed across his eyes, and the next thing Sasuke felt was a sharp stinging pain behind his eyes. He decided to open them. The image was blurry at first, but soon the blurs resolved and like a Polaroid picture taking form, Sasuke looked at his reflection and saw his eyes glowing red, his vision far sharper than the already sharp eyes his people were known for. In each of the bloody crimson irises a single black tomo spun like a pinwheel. He had his Sharingan, and all it had cost him was everyone he had ever loved. It was like a nightmare, but there was no waking from it. The pain was gone, so was the dull throbbing of his head. He felt good, physically at least. He gazed into his reflection once more, the tomo staring back at him lazily spinning. On these eyes, I swear to all of you I will make him pay. Sasuke vowed as he felt tears well up in his eyes. He wasn't sure if it was from anger or grief. No matter the cause, they fell all the same. With a low sigh he deactivated the Sharingan, cutting of his chakra flow to his dojutsu. He watched as his flinty onyx eyes stared back at him. Nodding, he turned away from the mirror. The voice, it would seem, had told the truth. Kaya no Hime's voice called out to him like a whisper, "You see now, poor child, that I spoke the truth, that I am here to assist you in your time of need. My gift has been passed on to you so you might survive your trials and emerge triumphant." The voice said with a soft, joyful tone that seemed to come from all around Sasuke. What gift? Sasuke thought. It didn't matter what it was if it could help him move on from the loss of everything he cared about. He was all ears. The Kami's voice came back to him like a soft purr. "You are destined for great things, my child. I have marked you as my chosen. All those who are marked by me are bound for great things." Sasuke frowned in confusion. The Kami went on, "A great gift I will bestow upon thee, O last of your line. I will grant you an ability I and Aim no Uzume have worked tirelessly on, an ability that will make advancement nigh trivial for you." What could this be? Sasuke wondered, and more importantly, what strings would such a gift come with? "You will gain a new ability, a power that no one else in your clan, nay your world, has ever gained save one, a power that will aid you greatly in your quest to defeat your brother, a new power that will change this world and ensure that the yellow sky rises once more, for the sake of peace." Kaya no Hime's voice came like an explosion as it spoke to him. "With my gift you shall become more than a mere ninja. With my gift you shall become a king upon men. If not more, if you desire so." "What is it?" Sasuke asked as his thoughts turned to the promise of power. The Kami's voice came back to him in a warm whisper, "A power to see the world as a system, as a role-playing game. A system of stats, attributes, merits, and techniques. Would you like me to show you what I mean?" Kaya no Hime asked. Sasuke felt a wave of curiosity wash over him. It did not sound like much to the boy, but he would not toss aside help so quickly. "Show me," Sasuke said. Before Sasuke could say another word, a long scroll appeared in front of him. At the top of it was titled Chronicles of Kami Character Sheet. Below that was listed what he assumed to be everything about himself. The first thing he saw were his basic details. Name Uchiha Sasuke. Age 10. Character. Vengeful, you are not one to take a slight laying down whenever you act as befitting your personality by righting a perceived wrong. Take a beat. 5 beats grants 1 experience point. Dirge. Passionate, you hide it well, but you secretly, like many Uchiha, have a very choleric temperament whenever you act on impulse. No matter the impulse. Take 1 beat. 5 beats grants 1 experience point. Clan Uchiha. Bloodline Sharingan 1 Tomo. Experience points 30. From surviving massacre and torture. Beats 0 fifths. Size 5, roughly in the 5-foot range. Health level 8. 3 from stamina, 5 from size. Chakra capacity 1600 CP. Speed 10 YPS. Run speed 5 from size, 3 from dex, 2 from STR. Defense rating 4. Armor rating 0 AOA0B. Soak 6B. Initiative modifier 6. Genjutsu resistance 8. Genjutsu bonus 5. Below this basic info was a large rectangular section labeled attributes. This section was then divided into 3 categories: mental, physical, and social. Mental attributes. Intelligence 3 fifths. An intelligence of 3 depicts an IQ of around 140 or so. Intelligence governs memory comprehension, sealing proficiency, medical ability, and mathematical abilities, and more besides. Wits 2 fifths. A wit of 2 is the human average. Wits governs improvisation and thinking on your toes. It benefits any skill when time is critical. Resolve minus 5/50ths. Resolve of 5 is the peak for normal humans, but in this world that peak is 40. Resolve covers your mental endurance to torture and your ability to keep going. Resolve in this world also heightens genjutsu resistance and chakra capacity. Physical attributes. Strength minus 2/50ths. A strength of 2 is the human average in most worlds. Strength 2 allows one to lift 80 pounds above their head with difficulty. Strength also governs the damage of physical attacks along with weapon modifiers and martial arts skill. Strength along with dexterity raise speed. Dexterity 3/50ths. A dexterity of 3 is higher than human average, but not much so. Dexterity raises the defense rating directly and contributes to the accuracy of physical attacks. Dexterity along with strength raise speed. Stamina 3/50ths. A stamina of 3 is higher than the human average of 2. Stamina directly adds a level of health per level. Stamina also directly affects chakra capacity and raises your blunt soak, allowing you to survive more punishing blows from punches and kicks. Social attributes. Presence minus 4/5ths. A presence of 4 is the equivalent of being an 8 out of 10. Presence is the combination of your looks, magnetism, and aura. It directly affects the starting opinion of those around you. A presence of 4 grants you plus 10 to initial reputation with all characters. Manipulation minus 2/5ths. Manipulation is part of your ability to lie, cajole, and other subtle means of getting your way. Manipulation affects the strength of genjutsu, being added as a bonus to genjutsu rolls. A manipulation of 2 is the human average. Composure 3/5ths. Composure is part of your social resilience against manipulation. A composure of 3 means you are moderately harder to fool than the average person. Composure, like manipulation, is also added to your genjutsu attack rolls. Hey, I notice there is no level listed. Isn't that a common thing in RPGs? Sasuke asked. He had never played many himself, but he remembered some of his distant cousins speaking about them before. Not that he would ever get to ask them now. Ah yes, that is correct. This is because, in short, levels are stupid and do not correlate at all to reality. Humans do not have levels. There are no level 15 ramen chefs or level 22 bandits. Humans do not become stronger by leveling up, they do so by becoming more skilled and improving themselves in more subtle ways. Kaya no Hime said this with an air of disdain directed at leveled systems. What humans do have is attributes, skills, techniques, and merits. Kaya no Hime's voice came back to him with an air of pride. This wonderful system is far more grounded and easily quantifiable. Kaya no Hime went on and explained. Attributes are what humans have instead of levels. They govern strength. Think of attributes like this. 0 to 5 are normal human level attributes, so we will call them genin level. 6 to 10 are attributes beyond the scope of normal human ability. Awakened chakra allows you to access these for all physical attributes and one mental attribute. Think of this level of attribute as Chunin level. 11 to 15 would then be the basis for elite Chunin level attributes, 16 to 20 being the range of Jonin, 21 to 25 are the realm of elite Jonin rank shinobi, 26 to 30 are S rank shinobi, while 31 to 35 is the realm of high S rank threats like most Cage, 36 to 40 is the rare SS rank, while 46 plus is the realm of SSS rank legends like Madara and Hashirama, the maximum level of which are attributes of 50. Sasuke sat listening and mentally taking notes. Kaya no Hime was right. Attributes did work like levels, which was a good thing. It meant that his own growth would be measurable in a clear and concise way to himself. This meant he could work to improve himself in ways that would be quantifiable and easily understood, and that was something he had always wanted for himself. He had never had any real confidence in his abilities, always being compared against his genius brother, but by looking at his stats he was not in a terrible place even now. What about those experience points from the first section, how do they work? Sasuke asked. The experience points are a measure of how much you have grown as a character. Kaya no Hime replied. In a normal RPG, experience is only good for leveling up, but in this system, experience is used instead to directly buy attributes, skills, merits, and techniques. The costs are at the bottom of the sheet, but I will tell you them now since you asked, my dear champion. Sasuke read down the list as Kaya no Hime explained. At first glance it might seem like experience is hard to grasp, especially with the system of beats, but it is really quite simple. She began. 4 experience points can be used to improve an attribute by a single point no matter how high or low it is. 2 experience points can improve or buy a merit by a single point no matter how low or high it is. 3 experience points can improve a skill no matter if it be novice or mastery. Beats are earned by acting in your nature. 5 beats make a single experience point. This is a reward for roleplaying. This was great news. He could directly increase his stats and skills without having to waste time grinding for experience like in other games he had played, and best of all, he could do it simply by acting as he already did. No moral grandstanding, no bullshit. Kaya no Hime, sensing his interest, continued. Experience points themselves are also earned by completing quests, missions, and surviving or overcoming ordeals. He heard the smile at her lips. In fact, for surviving the massacre of your clan and horrid torture, you earned quite a few experience points. Sasuke was momentarily distracted as he thought about what the clan massacre and torture was like, but then shook his head, clearing it from his thoughts. He was going to use those events to get stronger, to make Itachi pay. For acting in your nature you have gained a beat. Sasuke smirked. He would enjoy this. As Kaya no Hime continued her lesson, Sasuke noted down every detail in his mind. Before you spend them though, look down and to your left on the scroll and you will see the skills available. Skills range from 0 to 10, 0 being unskilled and 10 being Cage level. As skills are mental and physical, they do not go as high as physical attributes do. Kaya no Hime said. Sasuke looked where she had indicated, and he was not prepared for what he saw. A whole list of skills divided again into 3 categories: mental, physical, and social. He read the categories to himself. After reading through all the various skills, Sasuke felt a little overwhelmed at having so much to learn. As you can see, Kaya no Hime continued, it is not like an RPG where all skills start at the same level. She went on. Upbringing and experiences to this point have affected what skills and attribute you possess now. In the future you will gain whatever skill you work towards, but it is important to tell you this now: if you accept this gift you will no longer be able to gain skills by training, only by spending experience points. Experience points are gained by socializing, killing opponents, and completing quests and missions. Sasuke thought on that for a moment but did not want to lose this advantage. He could get stronger now with only a small investment of time and effort while gaining experience. It would be a faster path to power than training ever was. He nodded. I understand and accept. He somehow felt the goddess smile inside of his head. Good. Then we have one last broad section to cover before we move on to techniques, that being merits. As you have agreed, I have granted you a few that will aid you in your quest. Merits uniquely are more like perks or special abilities than skills and attributes. They define what makes you special as a person. Sasuke was looking at the list when he found the section simply labeled as merits. He began to read, his eyes widening at what was written. After reading, Sasuke was stunned. It should be criminal to have this level of understanding of me, he thought. Not to mention the incredible gift you have just bestowed on me. I have never seen anything like this. No Uchiha has ever been able to use the Sharingan without it being visible. Kaya no Hime smiled. That's why it is a gift. Merits are more than skills and attributes, they are special talents. The last user of this gift changed the world forever after all, she said softly. Sasuke's eyes had gone wide as he thought of the implications this may hold for him. Who was the last user? Sasuke asked as he continued to read through the list. I will not lie to you, though as you get older you may come to detest the answer. I am an honest kami if nothing else. Are you sure you wish to know? Sasuke felt mild trepidation, but he gave in to the impulse all the same. Tell me. For acting in your nature you gain 1 beat. His eyebrow twitched but a smirk settled on his face. Far be it for him to become angry by getting stronger, it served his purpose after all. Kaya no Hime sighed from somewhere within his skull. Very well, young Sasuke. The last wielder of your gift was the first Hokage of Konohagakure, Hashirama Senju. His blood ran cold, and silence reigned for a good 20 seconds. He felt Kaya Hime shuffle nervously. Sasuke's eyes widened in surprise. The first Hokage of Konohagakure, he murmured quietly as he looked down at the page. I don't understand. Are you telling me that the founder of this village was the last one to hold this power? He asked, internally certain that Kaya no Hime could read his thoughts. I would like to think that was a rhetorical question. Kaya no Hime chirped. After all, I do not lie to mortals, she added. That is disheartening. Sasuke thought the way his father had told it, their ancestor Uchiha Madara had fought and trained every day of his life trying to match Hashirama Senju. To know that he never had a chance because of such a system was rather cruel. Hashirama had made a family and taken the village and everyone to his side while Madara had no one. To find out that Hashirama had such an inescapable advantage over his ancestor was quite frankly sickening, but it explained so much. Like how Hashirama's own children never inherited his abilities nor his healing factor, they were not a Kekkei Genkai at all, were they? The fact that the man used his power to fulfill a sort of messiah complex had always inspired him. It had demonstrated what the greatest of shinobi could achieve, and now that he knew it was not his power at all that founded this village, he felt some small amount of genuine rage. On behalf of his ancestor, if he was understanding this power correctly, there was nothing even Madara for all his might could have done. He took a deep breath and calmed himself. The past was the past, and it was not like he could ever confront Hashirama or Madara with this. Both were long gone. They had been dead for decades after all, and death as far as he knew was permanent. He also could not criticize Hashirama overmuch without being a hypocrite, since he now held that same power. The argument of the morality of such a thing was no longer his to make. Kaya no Hime must have felt the change in him. You seem displeased, she said with some concern. Would it help if I explained some more about this gift? I am not displeased at myself, but for my ancestors to think Hashirama Senju had this power. It explains so much: his rapid growth, unique abilities, and the Mokudan that no one of his line ever inherited. He thought with a shake of his head as he looked at the page again. Yes, I suppose it is quite a lot to take in. Kaya no Hime mused aloud as if she were talking to herself. Oddly eerie since he could not see her, and her voice came from his head. For now, put those thoughts aside, young Uchiha. We still have 3 functions of the system to cover in depth. Sasuke nodded. As you wish then, I will listen. The next section to cover is techniques. If you look right above merits, you will see it. It lists every technique you currently know and your level of mastery with it. 1 is known, 10 is mastered. Mastering a technique will in effect make it one rank higher in power and often confers many other benefits as well. Alternatively, if you think techniques in your head, it will be brought up. Same is true for merits and the character sheet itself. She explained. Sasuke glanced up from merits and saw the list of his known techniques. Techniques. Kaden Gokakyu, Grand Fireball C rank 1000 CP 3/10, a signature technique of the Uchiha clan. At current mastery, the fireball has a range of 16 yards and a maximum area of effect of 6 yards. It currently does 6 aggravated damage and requires 7 defense to avoid. Kaden Hosenka, Phoenix Flower Jutsu C rank 1000 CP 2/10, a popular Uchiha technique. At current mastery, it launches 4 small fireballs to a max distance of 14 yards and affects a 4-yard area. Each fireball does 1 aggravated damage and requires 5 defense to avoid. Henge no Jutsu Transformation Technique D rank 500 CP 10 CP per minute 6/10. At your current mastery, your henge is impressive in all but the most minor details are perfectly aligned. Kawerimi no Jutsu Substitution Technique D rank 500 CP. No one knows how this technique actually works. Is it teleportation? No, but then how does it work? If you can move that fast, why do you need a log? Why place an illusion on the log? Bunshin no Jutsu Clone Technique D rank 50 CP per clone 7/10. These clones are literally useless and are only capable of fooling bandits or very distant shinobi. Sasuke twitched. Those last 2 answers had been strangely confrontational. He knew how the Kawerimi worked but would not be explaining it as he saw no point in doing so, and as for the clones, well, they were nice to have when one lacked a mirror, he supposed. Kaya no Hime spoke. Not to worry about that for now, you can keep your log technique secrets, she said with a hint of amusement in her voice. Though it may be good to know what your clones and henge can do if you feel like playing around and throwing a fashion show, she added dryly. Sasuke twitched. Offensive jutsu are pretty simple. Mastery increases range, radius and damage of most techniques while fully mastering it makes it seamless and function 1 rank higher. For instance, your ancestor Madara mastered the Majestic Flame Destroyer AB rank jutsu to the point that it had the damage and size of a powerful A-rank technique. Sasuke nodded. This makes sense so far. He thought to himself. His father had told him that Madara had never used a jutsu without putting his whole heart into it. He would not trust a technique unless he was its master. A lesson he had imparted onto Sasuke once he had gotten the fireball technique down and immediately tried picking up the Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Kaya no Hime continued, you will earn techniques as quest rewards or for exceptional roleplaying. Quest rewards tend to be one-time only rewards, but sometimes there will be multiple options for a reward. I should note that you have the ability to learn techniques and earn merits through the store function. Try thinking store now. Kaya no Hime's voice was excited like a child on Christmas Eve. Sasuke did as she said. Store. Sasuke thought to himself. Suddenly the scroll shifted. Reading over it, Sasuke saw that the top of the scroll said store and it was divided into new sections: merits, techniques, and equipment. At the bottom of the store page was a fund counter that showed what he assumed to be the wealth he inherited from the Uchiha clan. He was surprised at the amount but did not let it show on his face. Look at the techniques section for now and get yourself an earth technique and a lightning technique to balance yourself out. Since you have affinities for both of them, you should focus on those 3 elements, at least for the foreseeable future. Sasuke scrolled through the list of techniques, thousands in all, before he limited the search to C-rank techniques of the earth element, and even then, there were dozens of techniques. Sasuke nearly gaped. This power was incredible. He came across a technique called Doden Ishi no Niku Earth Style Stone Flesh C-rank 1000 CP 100 CP per minute. Focusing on the technique, a brief description appeared. Stone Flesh is an earth technique well prized for its survival-enhancing properties by Iwagakure shinobi. The technique at lowest level hardens the user's skin, but upon mastery and experience it also hardens muscles, blood vessels, and bones for superior protection. The technique, like all earth manipulations, is weak to lightning but otherwise solid. At level 1, stone flesh costs 1000 CP to activate and 100 CP per minute to maintain. At level 1, it offers 2 armor against lethal, blunt, and aggravated damage and half of this rating against lightning. At maximum level, grants 30 armor and costs no chakra to maintain past activation. Lesser variant of the Earth Spear technique, though with a far less noticeable skin darkening effect. Below the description he found a price 10,000 ryo, practically a steal with all the wealth he currently had. Sasuke had to fight to keep a manic grin from spreading across his face. This ability alone was worth all his wealth, the ability to simply buy techniques and bypass the secrecy of the shinobi world. Such an ability was unheard of. Sasuke hit purchase on the technique and then his Sharingan instinctively activated, revealing the hand seals and the chakra movements of the technique as if he had seen it performed in front of him. The scroll shifted to the technique page showing the new jutsu at level 1 mastery. Sasuke almost laughed like a madman in his room. He had no idea if he was being monitored, but even still, he could not stop his smile from spreading across his face. This is incredible, he thought to himself. He could not have asked for a better power than this, to be able to purchase and learn techniques by just spending money. He was already considering what other powers he could use against his damned brother. He would have to find something special just for him, to repay him the agony he had made him feel. It was only fair after all. For acting in your nature you gain 1 beat. His grin stretched even farther at that as a manic gleam entered his eye. Not to be rude and interrupt this entertaining display of what may be psychosis, but you still have to buy a Raiden technique. Once you do so, we will cover the last section. Kaya no Hime said dryly. Sasuke blinked. Oh, right. He thought to himself, of course. He immediately opened the store page again and sorted by C-rank Raiden techniques, noting with some glee that there were also dozens listed here. After browsing for some time, his eyes fell upon a promising-looking technique. Raiden Yama no Yuba, lightning-style fingers of the mountain, C-rank 1000 CP. Focusing on the technique just like before, a description appeared. A potent swift-moving bolt of lightning fired from 2 fingers. A precise long-range jutsu well suited for assassinations. Used predominantly by Hunter Nin of Kumogakure for its speed and accuracy. At level 1, the bolt of lightning deals 2 lethal damage, has a range of 30 meters and requires 5 defense to dodge. At max level it deals 30 lethal damage, is silent, can be cast seamlessly, has a range of 120 meters and requires 31 defense to dodge. 10,000 ryo. Sasuke smirked. Mastering this technique would give him a valuable long-range technique capable of taking out a single target at over 300 feet. It was perfect. All of Itachi's techniques were close-ranged as far as he knew from the genjutsu hell he had gotten to enjoy. He could use this jutsu while he was unaware, shocking him to unconsciousness and then rip out his eyes so he could not trap him again, and then torture him to death like he deserved. All it would take was 1 good shot. His lips quirked upwards in a foul grin which he hid behind his hand. There were daggers in his smile. This is perfect, he thought to himself. Sasuke purchased the technique and focused on it until he was able to see it in his mind. Then his eyes copied it as they had the previous jutsu. Now he had 2 new techniques, one of which was defensive and the other a long-ranged killing technique. The scroll shifted back to the store page and then to the character sheet before closing. There's one last thing we must cover, that being the relationship system. For this we will have to wait until the hospital realizes you are awake and sends someone to speak to you. Your relationship with a character goes from -100 to +100 and will be shown in a separate scroll section once you meet someone. Your existing relationships will only be calibrated by the system once you see them again, so the system will know to keep track of them. When you meet a person of interest, think inspect, and a description will be given about them. Forging relationships is an excellent way to gain XP and skills. I would encourage you to pursue them if you are interested in power. The more personally and potentially powerful the individual you interact with, the greater the bonus. Additionally, you can determine their attributes, skills, and other basic info. This should aid you in the relationship system and in combat. Sasuke acknowledged the utility of such a thing before he thought to ask, is there any other systems I need to know about? He felt Kaya no Hime shake her head. No, that is the entire system. There is no party system or inventory due to these functions leading to users of similar systems in other worlds revealing themselves through sheer incompetence. Items you purchase in the store will be placed securely in your place of residence out of sight and thus out of suspicion. The inventory system is an unnecessary risk, and the consequences are very annoying, and I as a goddess do not wish to deal with them. There is also no system that would turn you into an emotionless robot. Emotions are power and are necessary for one to be truly alive, at least according to Aim no Uzume, who helped me make this system. She paused briefly. There is one last thing though, should anyone find out you have this power, and you not kill them before they tell another, or otherwise guarantee their silence, the power will be taken from you. And all that you have gained will be lost. Kaya no Hime looked like she was about to add something more but stopped herself. Sasuke could almost hear the gears turning in her head before she spoke again. Other than that, you may use this power however you wish, kill anyone you wish, destroy anything you desire. Claim anything that your eyes hold under sway. Or, don't. I am not here to monitor your morality or your decisions. True roleplaying encompasses all actions, not just generic hero roleplay. Do with your powers as you will, this is your world after all. As I have told you, this is your story. Kaya no Hime's voice was practically vibrating in its intensity. I am simply here to watch it unfold and be entertained. Now go forth, be you, the hero of your own story like Hashirama was, or, be you, the monster this world created. With those words, Kaya no Hime faded away from his mind like a mirage on a hot day. He could still sense her faintly in the depths of his mind, but for now it would seem she was content to merely watch and listen. Sasuke sighed in relief and turned to rest on the bed. He had much to think about. First, he needed to get stronger. Even with this power, he was not naive enough to believe it would be an overly swift affair. The amount of power he would need to amass was by no means small. He was determined, however, and when he did achieve the strength necessary, his goals were already known. First, upon attaining said strength, he would need to find his brother. This time he would be prepared. He would not let him get away. No matter what it took, he was going to kill his brother, and that would be that. Then he had to restore his clan. He would require a strong woman to birth him sons and daughters. To attract such a woman or women as may be the case, he would need strength of his own. He was not in any hurry on that particular front, however, as killing Itachi was far more important, but he would need strength for that as well. The only thing that mattered in this world was power. The powerful were listened to and desired. The cage system was built on power. As far as he knew, only the strongest in the village rose to the top. All other requirements to him seemed secondary. Power was what defined a cage. Power was all there was to that had in the end of the day. The fourth Hokage had beaten his father and Orochimaru not simply because of his apparently kind nature. No, it was far simpler than that. He had simply been stronger. That is all there was to it really in his mind. And the weak, well, the weak were cast aside and used as was convenient. That is what Itachi had taught him after all. What was the adage again? The strong do what they can, and the weak suffer what they must. Sasuke to him had not even been worthy of being killed. He was like a gnat to Itachi, something not even worthy of notice. Sasuke vowed that he would never be so easily dismissed again. He would gain strength, as that was all that mattered in this world. Strength was the truth of the shinobi world. That is what his dear brother had so kindly revealed to him. Now that his eyes were open to this simple truth, he would be sure to share that revelation with his brother when the time came. Fair was fair after all. Only difference being he would kill a gnat, not ignore it. He was kinder than Itachi in that way. He would not allow his brother to wallow in pity as he was doing now. Festering and sick after torture and ridicule, oh no, Sasuke was a kind and gentle boy. He would show Itachi the mercy of death. Even a gnat deserved the release of death after having its wings burned away and its body crushed after all. Itachi would wish for death, much like he had wanted it while he was being tortured. it was really the least he could do to grant that wish. For brooding in your nature, you gain 1 beat. With a small smirk, Sasuke placed his hand on his chest, feeling his heart thumping like a drum beneath his fingertips. This was, as the kami had said, only the beginning of his tale. Before he could further descend into his deserved ranting, the door to his hospital room opened and a young nurse entered. "Oh, Sasuke-san, you are awake. That is wonderful news. I will fetch Yamanaka-sama. He wished to be notified as soon as you awoke. Please rest for now. He will be with you shortly," she hurriedly said, and before Sasuke could even respond or use his inspection ability on her, she hastily walked away from his room. Sasuke's mind raced to Yamanaka. From what he could recall, they were mind readers and therapists mostly. No doubt they had already read his mind while he was unconscious, and seeing that he still drew breath, they had not found anything bothersome. So, he decided to calm himself and wait as requested. Leaving now without greeting the one they sent would not only be rude but also highly suspicious. Matters were not helped by the fact that he was currently in a hospital gown and wished to retain his modesty. So wait he did. Around 10 minutes later, there was a knock at his door. Before the knob was turned and a tall blonde-haired man entered. He had calm blue eyes and his long hair was done up in a ponytail. He wore the standard Jonin vest and was of roughly average height for an adult male. Looking at the man, he controlled his expression and thought, "Inspect." Suddenly a list of details flew through his mind. Name: Yamanaka Inoichi. Age: 33. Character: professional. You are always proper and like to be viewed as a consummate professional. Dirge: doting father. You tend to dote on children, especially your own. You have a soft heart for kids and are thus more easily moved by them. Clan: Yamanaka. Bloodline: Mindwalker. Experience points 0. Beats 0 fifths. Size 5, roughly in the 5-foot range. Health level 23, 18 from stamina, 5 from size. Chakra capacity 23,600 CP. Speed 42 YPS. Run speed 5 from size, 20 from dex, 15 from STR. Elite Shunin enhancement X 15 speed for 1500 CP per second. Defense rating 26 plus 12 if using speed enhancement. Armor rating 3A3L3B3. Armor torso from Jonin vest. Soak 36B. Initiative modifier 25. Genjutsu resistance 23. Genjutsu bonus 9. Description: Yamanaka Inoichi is a Jonin of Konohagakure and a well-renowned therapist. Inoichi has some dealings with T&I and is well respected by the shinobi forces whom he helps in information gathering and stress reduction. He is a member of the Inoshika Cho trio and is the best mindwalker in his clan. He has already played around in your head. Reputation 4100 equals well liked. 30 from sympathy, 10 from presence. Inoichi is moved to sympathy for what you have endured and is further softened since you are a child the same age as his young daughter. Social role difficulty reduced by 2. Mental attributes: intelligence -4 fifths. Wits -3 fifths. Resolve -18 fiftieths. Physical attributes: strength -17 fiftieths. Dexterity -20 fiftieths. Stamina -18 fiftieths. Social attributes: presence 3 fifths. Manipulation 4 fifths. Composure 4 fifths. Skills only known shown. Mental. Academics 3 tenths. Occult 5 tenths. Politics 4 tenths. Chakra control 6 tenths. Investigation 5 tenths. Sealing 1 tenth. Physical. Athletics 6 tenths. Brawl 5 tenths. Martial arts 5 tenths. Sleight of hand 5 tenths. Survival 4 tenths. Weaponry 6 tenths. Social. Empathy 7 tenths. Persuasion 5 tenths. Expression 5 tenths. Socialize 4 tenths. Intimidation 3 tenths. Streetwise 2 tenths. Subterfuge 3 tenths. Sasuke blinked. He was so far above him, as was to be expected from a Jonin. Then again, this was his world now, he would not fail here. The blonde Jonin gave him a warm smile, his eyes failing to hide his pity. "Ah, Sasuke-kun, you are awake then. Good, I was hoping we could talk in a safe environment. We have much to discuss. I am Yamanaka Inoichi, the head of the Yamanaka clan. You have been unconscious for a period of 2 weeks following the ordeal, and I want to get you up to speed and find you any help you need. Sasuke looked up at him and considered his response. From what he gleaned by inspecting him, Yamanaka liked both propriety and childishness in equal measure. Thinking on this, he responded. Thank you for seeing me, Yamanaka-sama. I assume that since I woke up here in the hospital it wasn't just a dream then. Sasuke lowered his voice. Were there any other survivors among my clan? He asked hopefully. He felt he knew the answer. Itachi, if anything, was very thorough in the slaughter of his people. Yet a part of him still hoped he was not as alone as he felt. +1 reputation with Inoichi. 41 100ths. Inoichi shook his head slightly, a sad smile forming on his lips. He did not know what to say to such a question. There had not been any other survivors, all were dead. He imagined his own daughter in Sasuke's place and his heart bled all the more. No, it wasn't a dream, Sasuke-kun, I am sorry. You are the last of your clan. We have preserved the bodies until you awoke with seals. If you wanted to say your goodbyes, closure and future aid is sadly all I am able to offer you. Sasuke took a deep breath and felt like a weight had settled upon his shoulders. He did not need to fake his response. I would like that, Yamanaka-sama. He muttered, wiping at his suddenly misty eyes. He was grateful that they had not buried them until he awoke, and that his inheritance had not been taken from him. It would have been all too easy for the Hokage to do so in both cases. He was alone without the protection of his clan. There was no one in his corner, and despite that the Hokage had not taken advantage of the situation, tempting as it may have been. Tentatively the Yamanaka head placed his hand on Sasuke's shoulder. That would be best. It may hurt to see them like this, but saying goodbye to your family will give you some closure and allow you to begin healing. It will not be easy, Sasuke-kun, but first steps never are. Inoichi gave him an encouraging smile. Before that, let's get you out of the hospital. Your trip here has been paid for by the Hokage, so there is no bill for you to worry about. I have also taken the liberty of getting you a change of clothes. Get dressed and we will head out to get you some real food and go about preparing to lay your kin to rest. Inoichi said with a sad shake of his head. If you are up to it, of course. Sasuke nodded, his face feeling like it might fall apart. Inoichi pulled a scroll out of his pocket and unsealed the contents. A full set of his clothing from home, black sandals, a long-sleeved navy blue shirt with his crest on the back, and a pair of white trousers. Handing Sasuke the items, he stepped outside of the room to grant him some privacy. The door shut with a snap, leaving Sasuke alone in the room with his thoughts of his dead family. He couldn't hold back any longer and he began to silently cry yet again. He could do nothing for them but lay them to rest and bring them justice. When he was gifted this power, a part of him thought he was still dreaming, as if it was the after effect of some very long nightmare. A part of him still was hoping he would wake up even without the power. He would trade it all to have his family back. Sadly, it was not to be. Hearing his worst fear confirmed that he was the last of his clan in the village only made it worse. Even with Kaya no Hime telling him that already, he had naively hoped she was wrong. What a fool he had been, he should have known. Status. Sasuke thought as his status screen opened in front of him. He decided to spend his accumulated XP on his attributes to better make himself capable of deceiving others. Now that he had this power, he would use it to ensure he was better. Making himself better able to handle social manipulation was a necessity in the new world he found himself in. No doubt others, if not Inoichi and the Hokage, would now try to influence him. Name: Uchiha Sasuke. Age 10. Ryo 149.9 million. Character: vengeful. You are not one to take a slight laying down whenever you act as befitting your personality by righting a perceived wrong. Take a beat. 5 beats grants 1 experience point. Dirge: passionate. You hide it well, but you secretly, like many Uchiha, have a very choleric temperament. Whenever you act on impulse, no matter the impulse, take 1 beat. 5 beats grants 1 experience point. Clan Uchiha. Bloodline Sharingan 1 Tomo. Experience points 36. From surviving massacre and torture. Beats 4/5. Size 5, roughly in the 5-foot range. Health level 8, 3 from stamina, 5 from size. Chakra capacity 1600 CP. Speed 10 YPS. Run speed 5 from size, 3 from dex, 2 from STR. Defense rating 5. Armor rating 0 AOA 0B. Soak 6B. Initiative modifier 6. Genjutsu resistance 8. Genjutsu bonus 5. Mental attributes. Intelligence 3/5. An intelligence of 3 depicts an IQ of around 140 or so. Intelligence governs memory comprehension, sealing proficiency, medical ability, and mathematical abilities and more besides. Wits 2/5. A wits of 2 is the human average. Wits governs improvisation and thinking on your toes. It benefits any skill when time is critical. Resolve -5/50. Resolve of 5 is the peak for normal humans, but in this world that peak is 40. Resolve covers your mental endurance to torture and your ability to keep going. Resolve in this world also heightens genjutsu resistance and chakra capacity. Physical attributes. Strength -2/50. A strength of 2 is the human average in most worlds. Strength 2 allows one to lift 80 pounds above their head with difficulty. Strength also governs the damage of physical attacks along with weapon modifiers and martial arts skill. Strength along with dexterity raise speed. Dexterity 3/50. A dexterity of 3 is higher than human average but not much so. Dexterity raises the defense rating directly and contributes to the accuracy of physical attacks. Dexterity along with strength raise speed. Stamina 3/50. A stamina of 3 is higher than the human average of 2. Stamina directly adds a level of health per level. Stamina also directly affects chakra capacity and raises your blunt soak, allowing you to survive more punishing blows from punches and kicks. Social attributes. Presence -4/5. A presence of 4 is the equivalent of being an 8 out of 10. Presence is the combination of your looks, magnetism, and aura. It directly affects the starting opinion of those around you. A presence of 4 grants you +10 to initial reputation with all characters. Manipulation -2/5. Manipulation is part of your ability to lie, cajole, and other subtle means of getting your way. Manipulation affects the strength of genjutsu, being added as a bonus to genjutsu rolls. A manipulation of 2 is the human average. Composure 3/5. Composure is part of your social resilience against manipulation. A composure of 3 means you are moderately harder to fool than the average person. Composure like manipulation is also added to your genjutsu attack rolls. Looking at his attributes in his 36 XP, he remembered that an attribute cost 4 XP to raise. He bought 3 points in manipulation, 2 stamina, 1 presence, and 2 composure, for 32 XP. Confirming, he opened his stats. Name Uchiha Sasuke. Age 10. Ryo 149.9 million. Character. Vengeful. You are not one to take a slight laying down whenever you act as befitting your personality by righting a perceived wrong. Take a beat. 5 beats grants 1 experience point. Dirge. Passionate. You hide it well, but you secretly, like many Uchiha, have a very choleric temperament. Whenever you act on impulse, no matter the impulse, take 1 beat. 5 beats grants 1 experience point. Clan Uchiha. Bloodline Sharingan 1 Tomo. Experience points 4. Beats 4/5. Size 5, roughly in the 5-foot range. Health level 10, 5 from stamina, 5 from size. Chakra capacity 2200 CP. Speed 10 YPS. Run speed 5 from size, 3 from dex, 2 from STR. Defense rating 5. Armor rating 0 AOA 0B. Soak 10B. Initiative modifier 8. Genjutsu resistance 8. Genjutsu bonus 10. Mental attributes. Intelligence 3/5. An intelligence of 3 depicts an IQ of around 140 or so. Intelligence governs memory comprehension, sealing proficiency, medical ability, and mathematical abilities and more besides. Wits 2/5. A wits of 2 is the human average. Wits governs improvisation and thinking on your toes. It benefits any skill when time is critical. Resolve -5/50. Resolve of 5 is the peak for normal humans, but in this world that peak is 40. Resolve covers your mental endurance to torture and your ability to keep going. Resolve in this world also heightens genjutsu resistance and chakra capacity. Physical attributes. Strength minus 2/50ths. A strength of 2 is the human average in most worlds. Strength 2 allows one to lift 80 pounds above their head with difficulty. Strength also governs the damage of physical attacks along with weapon modifiers and martial arts skill. Strength along with dexterity raise speed. Dexterity 3/50ths. A dexterity of 3 is higher than human average but not much so. Dexterity raises the defense rating directly and contributes to the accuracy of physical attacks. Dexterity along with strength raise speed. Stamina 5/50ths. A stamina of 5 is higher than the human average of 2 and most worlds' maximum. Stamina directly adds a level of health per level. Stamina also directly affects chakra capacity and raises your blunt soak, allowing you to survive more punishing blows from punches and kicks. Social attributes. Presence minus 5/5ths. A presence of 5 is the equivalent of being a 10 out of 10. Presence is the combination of your looks, magnetism, and aura. It directly affects the starting opinion of those around you. A presence of 5 grants you plus 20 to initial reputation with all characters. You are drop dead gorgeous and people often joke that you will be quite the lady killer when you grow up. Manipulation minus 5/5ths. Manipulation is part of your ability to lie, cajole, and other subtle means of getting your way. Manipulation affects the strength of genjutsu being added as a bonus to genjutsu rolls. A manipulation of 5 is the human peak. You are the most naturally manipulative person alive that isn't your brother. Composure 5/5ths. Composure is part of your social resilience against manipulation. A composure of 5 means you are far harder to fool than the average person. Composure like manipulation is also added to your genjutsu attack rolls. Satisfied with his new attributes, he got dressed and looked into the mirror in the restroom. He didn't recognize himself anymore. He was new and yet familiar, like he was looking at someone he should have been a long time ago but just couldn't be. He had always been a cute kid, taking heavily after his mother in appearance, who was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen, but now what little flaws he did have did not seem to exist. His eyes were faintly sharper, his skin already clear and healthy now was flawlessly smooth, and his hair was so glossy it was practically like something out of a work of art. Looking away from the mirror lest he become the next Narcissus, he went out into the hallway and found Inoichi. Plus 10 reputation with Inoichi Yamanaka. 51/100ths. Damn kid, you clean up nice. It's like you're not the same person, Inoichi said lightly. Sasuke managed to hide his smirk. This power was already paying dividends if it was so easy to improve himself. He was also grateful that his change of appearance did not cause undue suspicion. Looking back on it, that would have been hard to explain. Luckily, it seemed that this power made such a change seem natural, or at least countered the negative reactions of such a change. That would need some careful consideration at any rate. Thanks, Yamanaka-sama, Sasuke said politely, crafting a shy smile upon his face. Shall we head out? There are things I wish to discuss with you, such as my clan's future and what must be done. Inoichi nodded in agreement and led Sasuke from the hospital out into the village proper. They headed to Yakiniku, a barbecue restaurant owned by the Akamichi family. The clan had only opened the place 3 years ago, but it was already making a name for itself as one of the most popular in the village, with its large selection of meats and vegetables along with its good prices and large portions. As they sat at a booth towards the far end of the not surprisingly packed restaurant and a waitress took their order, Inoichi began to explain how he believed Sasuke should move forward. After we lay your family to rest, you may rejoin the academy if you so desire, though I will be insisting that you take another week off to put your affairs in order before you return. Sasuke nodded as he listened politely. In another world, had he not been gifted this power, he would have likely pushed Inoichi's concerns off, but he saw the sense in them now. Having a week to adjust would also give him time to come to terms with his new power, and agreeing would likely allay some suspicion. As for your clan, All of the Uchiha estates within the district now fall to you, as does all the wealth of the Uchiha clan. After all the assessments were completed, the total monetary assets came to 150 million ryo. All the land is in your name. You may sell or lease any portion that you choose if you desire to do so. Though I believe you should consider keeping it to ensure the clan's estates are maintained. If you would like, I would be willing to maintain your estates until you come of age by graduating the academy. Sasuke was surprised at this offer. He knew very little about managing an estate, and placing himself under the aegis of the Yamanaka clan could be to his benefit. It would also likely allow him to connect with their allied clans, the Nara and the Akamichi. Inoichi wore a pensive expression on his face. The Uchiha were a clan of Konoha much like my own, and you have been dealt a rather bad hand. You do not have to shoulder that burden alone, Sasuke. I will help you if you require it. Inoichi's expression was sincere. He wanted to be there for Sasuke and help him through this trying time if he would have him. Sasuke felt his sincerity, and even with his high composure could find no foul motives in Inoichi's intent. The man, it seemed, was truly willing to go out on a limb for him and help him out. Sasuke did not hesitate in his response, though it was hard for him to speak around the lump in his throat. He still could not get over how much this all seemed unreal. Of course, Yamanaka-sama, your help would be appreciated, at least until I get on my feet. Sasuke said, trying to keep the emotion out of his voice. Inoichi's expression lit up slightly. Then we are in agreement. I will take care of everything, from your finances to your estate if need be. There is nothing you have to worry about, so long as you don't mind my company. Inoichi laughed. Sasuke nearly laughed as well. Oh no, his company would be no trouble at all, quite the opposite in fact. Now the village has already cleaned and repaired your clan's estates once again. This was covered by the third Hokage personally, so there is no bill or obligation there on your part. Sasuke paused at that. It was a very generous gesture, almost suspiciously so, but he was not certain on that. As far as he knew, the annihilation of a whole clan had never occurred before in the village's history, so it may just be a new precedent. With your inheritance you have more than enough money to live a comfortable life, but I would propose you set a budget for yourself. 100,000 ryo a month seems to be a fair amount, and when you graduate in 5 years from the academy, that would still leave you with 144 million ryo at the start of your career. This allotment should cover all your utilities and allow you to live very comfortably. Pausing briefly as if to think it through, Inoichi continued. Upkeep is another expense, but I would suspect it to be in the same range as your living expenses, as most of the clan grounds will be unused. Only routine maintenance should be necessary for some time to come. This brings us to the issue of your clan's future. The clan will remain as is unless you wish it to be otherwise. You are still a child and have some time before you are required to serve on the Shinobi Council, so there is time to think things through and discuss these matters with me if you like. Sasuke nodded and took a deep breath. He felt lighter than he had since he regained consciousness. 200,000 ryo a month was manageable with his inheritance, so he decided to take that figure and see how things went. It would allow him some leeway for other expenses and give him some room for mistakes. With all this considered, his inheritance would last more than a single lifetime, which was good. Sasuke would have plenty of time to figure things out for himself without the burden of his clan's estate falling on his shoulders. We will set up your accounts at the bank after we are done this evening. I will have advisory rights as agreed, but will not be able to withdraw funds directly. I will send you suggested expenses, but you will have to approve or deny them at your leisure. That is agreeable, and I thank you for the help, Yamanaka-sama. Sasuke said graciously. +1 relationship with Yamanaka Inoichi 53/100. No thanks necessary, Sasuke-kun. You are a good kid. Ino talks about you all the time, and if my daughter likes you, there has to be good in you. Inoichi said, chuckling to himself. Now let us eat. You must be starving. Inoichi smiled warmly as Sasuke looked on with an unreadable expression. Inoichi did not have to worry though. Sasuke was famished. The hospital was unable to feed him due to him being in a coma as the medic Nin and Yamanaka worked on fixing his body and his mind, leaving him to only be nourished by IV and other supplements. Sasuke found himself barely able to control himself as the meat was cooked in front of him on the grill. He dug into his rice with gusto and soon he was eating with abandon, the grilled meat tasting heavenly after going so long without proper food. Though it would never compare to his mother's cooking, it was a good change after being only drip-fed while unconscious. As they ate, Inoichi began to tell Sasuke about his daughter. Ino, he remembered, was in his class at the academy. He had spoken to her a few times, and she seemed like a bright girl from what he remembered. By the way Inoichi spoke of his daughter, you would think he thought she was going to be Hokage one day. He felt a small amount of jealousy at that. His father was never as openly praising as Inoichi seemed to be. Ino was lucky to have him, Sasuke thought. You are a good father, Yamanaka-sama, Sasuke said before he could stop himself. Though his tone of voice made it seem more like he was scolding him than complimenting him, though it was not out of place for him to be so blunt. Inoichi blinked, before a small smile played at his lips. +2 relationship with Inoichi Yamanaka. 55/100ths. Thank you Sasuke-kun, we can drop the formality if you want. Inoichi said warmly. Sasuke nodded his head. He felt embarrassed and was glad to be finished with that topic of conversation. They sat in companionable silence for a time. Quest alert: changing things up. Moderate figure relationship. Goal: reach 60 relationship with Yamanaka Inoichi. Rewards: 10 XP, an ally in a high clan, +1 skill point in empathy. A quest alert, huh? Fine, if it makes me stronger, I will do so. Sasuke thought to himself. So, you know a lot about me Inoichi, but I know very little of you. What is it you do as a Jonin? Sasuke asked politely. He was curious to know more about the man that had come out of nowhere offering to help him like this. He assumed as a Yamanaka he was chosen for his psychological abilities. Though Inoichi's status was not that of a simple ninja, as far as Sasuke was aware, there had to be an angle here. Well, I primarily help our young shinobi when they are dealing with trauma. As a Yamanaka, I have a deeper understanding than most of the importance of mental health and rehabilitation. Most of the time a person can be healed by talking to someone they trust or listening to someone who knows about their situation and how they should deal with it. It is not easy, but most people can recover from even horrible things if given time and proper care. Inoichi took a drink before continuing. Our ninja are often sent out on missions that may be more than they can handle. They are expected to do more than they should sometimes, but we cannot go through life alone. Sometimes we need someone to lean on, to talk to someone who can help us deal with the pain of our losses and give us hope that we can make it through another day. That is my job. Inoichi paused and looked over at Sasuke. He could see the seriousness in his eyes as he spoke. We may not be family, but you are a member of this village, Sasuke, and you have gone through something awful, and it is my job to help you, and from coming to know you more I would consider it as my personal duty. Sasuke could see that Inoichi meant every word he said. There was no question as to his sincerity and he was grateful for it. It would make this all too easy. Sasuke looked down at his empty plate for a moment, thinking on what he should say to such a thing. If not for his new power he knew he would have pushed Inoichi away, but now he did not see that as the correct path. Getting closer to this man would help him gain power, therefore being open was perhaps the best option. That is an admirable job Inoichi, I will be counting on you. Sasuke said, looking into the man's eyes which were warm and full of genuine concern. Inoichi smiled warmly, clearly relieved to hear his answer. +2 relationship with Inoichi Yamanaka. 57/100ths. Thank you Sasuke-kun, Inoichi said quietly as Sasuke continued eating the food that had been prepared for him like his life depended on it. Sasuke had to admit this power was more than a little bit of a cheat. His advancement of social attributes made it far easier to know just what to say, and he could track the impact of his words in real time, Were he not interested in being a shinobi so that he could justly torture his brother, he would doubtfully become a horrifyingly capable politician. Sasuke continued to eat and Inoichi began asking questions, which Sasuke answered politely, though he found it a little difficult being honest with the man and speaking of things he did not like to say, but Inoichi seemed to appreciate the honesty. All good things come to an end, however. It is about time we head out. Sasuke, are you ready to see your family? He asked gravely. Inoichi did not say anything further and just looked at him. Sasuke nodded, not really trusting his voice. Then let us go so that you may pay your respects. You will have enough time to say goodbye before I take you home. Inoichi stood up and went to the door. Sasuke followed him on unsteady feet. Getting the power and talking to Inoichi, he had almost forgotten why he was here, out and about in the first place. A small part of him wished he could forget if he were being honest with himself. Quest added. Paying your respects, major life event. Goal: say goodbye to your family for what may very well be the last time. Objectives: say goodbye to Fugaku Uchiha, Makoto Uchiha, Tenkai Uchiha, Anabi Uchiha, Izumi Uchiha, Setsuko Uchiha, and the rest of your clan. Quest rewards 20 XP, closure, 1 point in empathy and subterfuge, Uchiha clan jutsu scrolls. Bonus reward optional: use your Sharingan to ingrain their faces into memory, 12 XP, 1 point in resolve, 1 point in occult, plus 1 lock of hair from every member of your clan in a scroll that will be placed in your home's basement. Sasuke almost froze at that. Another quest. He had not expected that, and what was with the scroll with human hair? What kind of reward was that? He followed Inoichi in a daze. Inoichi for his part was content to merely lead him there, perhaps noting that small talk would have likely made this process even worse. The villagers on the street whispered and bowed as he passed, perhaps noting the change on the wind. Their eyes were full of pity. They did not understand. How could they ever really? They tried though, and that was faintly touching in a way. After some time, they came to one of the village's many morgues. Inoichi led the way inside and then down the stairs to the cold, dark room. Flicking a light switch, Inoichi stopped him before he entered, placing both of his hands on Sasuke's shoulders. Sasuke looked up at the man. Though his eyes were unfocused, they took in the face of the man who had been helping him. His eyes were gentle but full of concern. Sasuke felt like a child again, a child that was lost, but with no way back. Inoichi could not give him back the things he had lost, and that was all he wanted. They both knew that. Before Sasuke could say anything, however, Inoichi leaned down and looked him in the eyes. I will be right out here, Sasuke. While you say your goodbyes, take as long as you need. If you need me or want to leave, just call and I will take you home, okay? He asked gently, his hands remaining on Sasuke's shoulders. Sasuke nodded. He was still not sure he wanted to be here in this place, but he had to do this if only to move forward. Inoichi tried to give him a smile, but it was a pain-broken thing like a shattered mosaic. Sasuke gulped and then turned to the door, which seemingly had a seal of some sort on it. He could not decipher it with his non-existent knowledge, but from what Inoichi had said, it was likely the stasis seal keeping his clan from rotting. Sasuke entered the room where his people's bodies were held, the only living Uchiha in a room of dead. He looked around and found his father, Fugaku, laying out on the nearest gurney, his name display hanging from it. He was dressed in formal regalia and looking more peaceful than he ever had in life. Sasuke walked to the gurney. His father's eyes were closed now and forevermore. He took his cold hand in his one and with a hesitant breath activated his Sharingan. His eyes flowed crimson and absorbed every detail of his father's face, burning it into his memory in a way that not even dementia could erase. I promise you to, San, I will make you proud of me one day, and you will say that's my son. He said, swallowing the lump in his throat. I only wish I could have heard it again while you were alive. With another deep breath, Sasuke moved on to the next body on the gurney, Makoto Uchiha. His mother was as always at his father's side, but to Sasuke's blood-red eyes she was far too still. In death she looked serene, but in a pale, mocking way that could not compare to how she carried herself in life. She, much like his father was, wore the finest ceremonial dress she had. Taking her cold hands in his own this time, he could not help the tears that fell from his eyes. Ka-san, you always were there for me, even now you would probably tell me to smile and that things would get better. I promise you, I will make things better, and when I do I will be the one that makes others smile, just like you did. He had no idea how long he stood there, looking down at his mother, engraving the woman's face who had made his childhood worthwhile into his mind, but eventually he turned. He had to keep going or else he would never leave this room. He meant what he said, however. After his brother was dead, he would become kinder. If he didn't, it would be the same as Itachi killing him too that night. If Itachi killed who he was so completely, would he even truly be alive? Sasuke did not think so, and for that reason alone he would have endeavored to honor his promise to his beloved mother out of spite. He would not let his brother win, not anymore. He wouldn't let Itachi take one more damn thing from him. His promise to his mother would solidify that. He looked around and found Izumi, the girl that always carried a torch for his brother, the girl he had murdered with a genjutsu. Now she lay dead on her back in her best formal dress, looking a little bit like she was sleeping, not looking at peace or anything like it, just sleeping as if ready to wake at any moment. A piece of Sasuke died looking at her. Even in death and stillness she was smiling. She had been such a kind and gentle girl from what he remembered of her. He took her hand all the same. He will not get away with this, Izumi, nay. He vowed, his crimson eyes spinning as he ensured he would remember her. He remembered Itachi telling him how when she held him as a baby he had cried and cried. Funny how little things seemed to have changed, he thought as he held her hand, a tear falling from his eyes. With another heavy breath, he moved to the next body, Tenkai Uchiha, or what was left of him anyway. The man was lying on his back, little more than an upper torso and a badly burned face. Taking his remaining hand, Sasuke forced himself to look at what had once been a proud shinobi, at what had once been a hero of his clan before war and tragedy broke him. There is little left of you save what I carry within me, he said, holding the man's hand. He could feel the scars of years of battle on his hand. Despite that, I promise you, Tenkai, he will suffer before he dies, he vowed, forcing himself to not look away like he so desperately wanted to. He looked about when his eyes were drawn to another gurney. The gurney held the body of Tenkai's beloved granddaughter Setsuko, who he had raised as his own daughter, after his son had died, never to see her after the Kyuubi attack. He had been one of the unlucky few they had lost that day. The rest of the clan had been evacuating the villagers. She was younger than he was, just a girl of 9 years, not even in the academy yet. And Itachi had murdered her. What else could the killing of a child who cared for her grandfather and never hurt anyone be called? She looked so small on the gurney, in her little dress. Sasuke felt his teeth clench and nearly bit his tongue, his eyes burning with tears. He reached out and held her hand, which was even smaller than his own. I am sorry, Setsuko, I'm so sorry. I don't know why anyone would do this. I will stop him, he swore, his eyes burning like embers. He had played with her from time to time, they were close in age and his mother would tease him for hanging out with her. She was just a young girl full of life. Her death was a sick joke. A cruel jest from the heavens that made him wonder if there was even any meaning in the world. Such a world as this did not deserve to exist in its current state. Glancing down again at the girl, he realized all too late he had considered his friend. He engraved every detail of her into his mind, her hair done up in 2 messy buns, her lips set in a thin line. She should be smiling, even though she had no reason to. That frown did not suit her at all. To him she always was smiling, even in death he could almost see it, a wide toothy grin, her eyes sparkling like struck flint, her voice ringing in his head like it used to in life. He felt his eyes sting again. Then there was only one more body left to pay respects to, Anabi Uchiha. In a different world he wished his clan had listened to him about Itachi. Anabi was right about his brother. Itachi was a murderer who killed his entire clan after killing his best friend. Anabi had always been right. Had they listened to him, things may have been different. Taking his hand, he saw deep rope burns on his wrists. He noted how they stitched his head back onto his body and the burns scorching his lips. He had died fighting, it would seem. Despite Itachi breaking him, Anabi had died spitting fire like a true Uchiha should. Memorizing his face, Sasuke spoke. You were an asshole, Anabi, no way around it. But you were a right one, we should have listened to you. I hope you find peace when I rip him apart. He saw his aunt and uncle in the distance, their gurneys tragically on separate ends of the room. He pushed them together. They had lived together, died together, and now past death they deserved the same. It was a small wrong, but he had fixed it. In time he would fix them all. He would make things better. He would find the man who did this and bring him to justice. He promised himself with a determination that could not be broken. He would find his bastard of a brother and he would make him beg for death. For every Uchiha here he would torture him for an hour. One by one, he had memorized their names from the gurneys they rested upon. Every hour he would ensure Itachi remembered them too. He would show him what it felt like to have your soul torn apart by pain. After all, that was what Itachi had done to him. Then and only then would Itachi die, and only then would he be free to truly live his life. With that thought in mind, Sasuke went from body to body, memorizing them all, remembering them all as they lived. His blazing eyes ensuring he would never forget any of them as long as he drew breath. All in all, he gave his word to 300 of his fallen people, 300 promises he would keep, 300 dreams he would fulfill even if it killed him. When he was finished, he deactivated his eyes and headed for the exit. He stood there and stared at the door for what felt like hours before he left it without a single look back. He had said all there was to say, and he would never forget that room for as long as he lived. Chakra is a combination of the stamina and resolve attributes. At 0 to 5 stamina, resolve Genin level chakra is 200 per level. At 6 to 10 Chunin level chakra is 400 per level. At 11 to 15 elite Chunin chakra is 800 per level. At 16 to 20 Jonin level chakra is 1600 per level. At 21 to 25 elite Jonin level chakra 3200 per level. At 26 to 30 S rank level chakra is 6400 per level. At 31 to 35 elite S rank chakra is 12800 per level. At 36 to 45 SS rank chakra is 25,600 per level. At 46 to 50 SSS rank chakra is 51,200 per level. Max level of physical attributes is 50. All other attributes except for resolve cap at 5. This is human limit in our world. Some merits may raise them higher, but 5 int for example is a Shikamaru level intellect, someone with an IQ of around 200. 5 presence is among the most attractive humans ever. Skills are capped at 10, which is twice the human level, to explain things like martial arts master swordsman and medical ninjutsu and such. Below, find the max chakra for someone with both chakra attributes maxed for their level of skill. A max Genin has 2000 chakra. 5/5. A max regular Chunin has 6000 chakra. 10 out of 10. A max elite Chunin has 14,000 chakra. 15/15. A max Jonin 30,000 chakra. 20/20. A max stat elite Jonin has 62,000 chakra. 25/25. A max stat S rank shinobi has 126,000 chakra. 30/30. A max stat high S rank shinobi has 254,000 chakra. 35/35. A max stat SS rank shinobi has 766,000 chakra. 45/45. Max amount of chakra possible if 50 stamina and 50 resolve. SSS rank is 1,278,000 chakra. 50/50. Naruto by time of inclusion has a stamina rating of 25 and resolve 5. His chakra pool is at 32,000, currently more than 2 max elite Chunin. By the age of 10. By the age of 15, i.e. academy graduation, he will have 35 stamina and 7 resolve for a chakra pool of 128,800, more than 2 fully stated elite Jonin. Keep in mind not every shinobi has the max limit of their stats. Some Jonin like Kakashi have their max stamina, but their resolve is weak. Below see jutsu prices before adjustments made by affinity chakra control. E rank 500 CP. D rank 500 CP. C rank 1000 CP. B rank 3000 CP. A rank 6000 CP. S rank 20,000 CP. This sounds cheap and well, yeah, it kind of is. Who in canon other than Sasuke and Kakashi in part 1 has actually gotten chakra exhaustion? No one springs to my mind. Affinity effects. Level 1 affinity is 10% reduction, 2 is 23 is 34 is 55 is 75% and supernatural 6 is 90% reduction of cost. For instance, Chunin exam Sasuke had a level 4 lightning affinity and a total CP of 6000 Chidori. As an A-ranked jutsu he reduces cost by 50%. 6000 goes to 3000, allowing him to use the jutsu 2 times, his limit before complete chakra exhaustion. The third Chidori is used against Gaara was because of the curse seal. By Shippuden he mastered lightning, gaining a level 5 affinity, reducing the cost of Chidori by 75%. He also had Jonin level chakra reserves at start 4000, 30,000 chakra roughly. Speed enhancements and bonuses using chakra defensively. Requires stamina, dexterity and strength of the level associated with the rank. So, to use the genin speed enhancement you would need 5 stamina, 5 strength, and 5 dexterity. This is for a 6-second burst of speed. 10, 10, 10 for Chunin. 15, 15, 15 for Elite Chunin. 20, 20, 20 for Jonin. 25, 25, 25 for Elite Jonin. And so on by 5 for ranks higher. Genin speed enhancement x5 speed 250 CP ups defense by 3. Chunin speed enhancement x10 speed 500 CP up defense by 6. Elite Chun speed enhancement x15 1000 CP ups defense by 12. Jonin speed enhancement x20 2000 CP ups defense by 18. Elite Jonin speed enhancement x25 4000 CP ups defense by 24. S rank speed enhancement x 38,000 CP ups defense by 30. SS rank speed enhancement x35 16,000 CP ups defense by 36. Genjutsu levels if jutsu is mastered. A fully mastered 3-tomo Sharingan grants mastery of DA rank genjutsu instinctually. D rank plus 10 to genjutsu roll. C rank plus 20 to genjutsu roll. B rank plus 30 to genjutsu roll. A rank plus 35 to genjutsu roll. S ranks like Tsukuyomi plus 45 to genjutsu roll. So, it goes like this: 20 resolve, 10 occult would give 30 genjutsu resistance. Let's say such a ninja was attacked by a master genjutsu user using a B rank technique. 5 composure, 5 manipulation gives 10 genjutsu ability. AB rank genjutsu gives plus 30 to roll. The genjutsu succeeds 30 vs 40. The genjutsu succeeds with 10 successes. Every success in genjutsu is 10 seconds of duration. 6 successes or more means they cannot break out on their own. Genjutsu is an insidious art that is hard to master for most people but terribly deadly in skilled hands. Jutsu damage notes. Mastering a jutsu raises its range by 10, its area of effect by 10, its difficulty to dodge by 10, and its damage by 10, effectively making its rank 1 higher. Hand seals are also reduced or eliminated by mastery. A mastered Kaden Gokaku is AB rank in all but name. Not all jutsu have area of effect, so please keep that in mind. Some jutsu may have additional effects which will be noted in their descriptions. D rank jutsu increase in damage, dodge difficulty, area in meters, and range in meters by 1 for every point of mastery. 1 damage at level 1 would be 10 at level 10 mastery. But with jutsu mastery a further 10 would be added to it if it was mastered at level 10. C rank jutsu increase in damage, dodge difficulty, area in meters, and range in meters by 2 for every point of mastery. 2 damage at level 1, would be 20 damage at level 10 mastery. But with Jutsu Mastery, a further 10 would be added to it if it was mastered at level 10, making its damage 30. B rank Jutsu increase in damage, dodge difficulty, area in meters, and range in meters by 3 for every point of mastery. 3 damage at level 1 would be 30 damage at level 10 mastery. But with Jutsu Mastery, a further 10 would be added to it if it was mastered at level 10, making its damage 40. A rank Jutsu increase in damage, dodge difficulty, area in meters, and range in meters by 4 for every point of mastery. 4 damage at level 1 would be 40 damage at level 10 mastery. But with Jutsu Mastery, a further 10 would be added to it if it was mastered at level 10, making its damage 50. S rank Jutsu increase in damage, dodge difficulty, area in meters, and range in meters by 6 for every point of mastery. 6 damage at level 1 would be 60 damage at level 10 mastery. But with Jutsu Mastery, a further 10 would be added to it if it was mastered at level 10, making its damage 70. A mastered S rank Jutsu is a terrible thing, and only the very best of shinobi can dodge such a technique. No one by this stat system can survive a direct hit by an S rank technique if it hits them fully and without defenses.